Did you know that I was the second person in England to have flown a particular homemade plane in Britain? And did you know that I was the first person in England to have flown this plane, but also to have built it? Now, this all came about because when I was 17 and a half, I was given a pilot's license by the Royal Navy, and then I joined the army, and my army pay wasn't very great, and so I thought club flying was rather expensive. So I thought, what is the way of flying more cheaply? Someone suggested these little single-seat aeroplanes, and at the time I looked at the magazine which deals with these planes, and the only way you could get one was to buy one which had been built by somebody, which was also quite expensive and way beyond my means, but also you could build one yourself. But I thought to myself, I won't have time to build it completely. Perhaps if I bought some bits from a person who'd started to build, I could then complete it and then carry on flying. So I looked at all the adverts and found this project for one of these very simple, very square looking planes made of wood, fabric, with a Volkswagen engine on it, and I bought the bits for £600 with a loan from my regiment, which were trying to encourage me into sport, and I started to put this thing together and complete the building of it. And so eventually I test flew it with a 1600cc Volkswagen engine, wooden propeller, open cockpit, square wood, plywood and Irish linen fabric on the wings, and I test flew it and started flying it. Well, we had some great fun with this plane. It was easy to fly, but also very easy to make mistakes, and there's some very funny stories attached to it, and one in particular I must tell you about. I had a slight accident coming into Colerne. I put my brake on too hard, and it was a mini handbrake, and I couldn't let it go in time, and the tail of the aircraft rose up, and the propeller hit the ground, and the aircraft, as it were, crashed into bits in front of me. The main things were still there, but the engine was bounced off on its own, and I was left with my feet on the tarmac. Now, the funny thing about this was that somebody was having a picnic at the side of the airfield looking at the gliders that were flying off, and they'd obviously rung up the police to say that an aircraft had crash landed at Colerne, and the police had jumped to the conclusion that it must be a Hercules aircraft. And so the entire Chippenham Fire Brigade had been called out, and it was two big tenders, a small tender and a police car, all coming across from the entrance to Colerne. And as they got closer, they could see it wasn't a Hercules, and their lights went off, and then their siren went off, and they eventually ended up by joining us for a cup of tea. Anyway, I hope you have a good Christmas. There are lots of other stories connected with this little plane, but that's for another time.